Hello, my name is The Jordan, back with my favorite kind of content, the Draftables analysis series, helping y'all level up at one of the most strategically deep and expressive games I've ever played, VGC Draft League. This week is about mid-season transactions, the idea that your team is not lost. Among the mons you have on your squad and some undrafted free agents, there is a good team there. You do not need to throw in the towel and wait till next season. So this is about making moves, figuring out what your team's good at and what it needs. Doing this kind of analysis means not just zooming in on one part of the game. We've talked about redirection, trick room, hyper offense, priority, but in order to know what an 11-mon squad needs, you need to zoom out, look at all 11 mons, their tools, and figure out what's working and what's not. So we're going to look at a couple of different cases, a couple of different teams that have really improved themselves through transactions, and then one team that struggled that I think was very fixable with the right transaction. So we're going to transform a team in real time. If you like this kind of analytical content, please leave a like below. Let's do it. So my first case study is Heaven in the VBL Season 8. This is Gen 9 Draft League, Series 1, so there's no Paradox Mons. Mons like Hatterene, Rotom, and Umbreon are good quality, beefy Pokemon, but this team, I think you can immediately see the problem why Heaven struggled just from Week 1, despite making finals in the previous season. This team is slow. These Mons are all beaten by overwhelming them before they get into the position they want to be in. So I think the problem with this team was lacking immediate speed, immediate damage, and immediate disruption. Some fast mons are good, some aren't good, but they all threaten to disrupt an opponent's game plan before they get to go. If you know you're going first with half your team, because lots of mons are over 100 speed, then you can set up whatever plan you want to go for. You want to snarl and control the game, you want to set up your screens, you want to do icy winds and tailwinds, you want to click nasty plot, whatever the case may be, you know you get to execute your game plan because they're not putting on that immediate pressure. Fake out would be really nice on a team like this. There's I guess there's redirection, but not against safety goggles. There's great trick room abusers here, right? As soon as we reverse speeds, this team is doing great, right? Lots of good trick room sweepers, trick room abusers, but this is the limitations of a hard trick room concept, is it does not exert enough control over the game. But Heaven made an excellent pair of transactions. This really stretched his speed tiers, bringing in Espathra and Palmod. Umbreon and Amoonguss were good, but they were redundant with other kind of bulky, disruptive pieces that he had that took a turn or two to execute what they wanted to do. Espathra is an immediate threat because it just sits on the field and it's got speed boost. So if you don't take it out, it's going to be faster than all the mons within a turn or two. So that's a really, really good, compact fast mode. So you bring Espathra and Palmod, which has got the fake out that we talked about. It's got that immediate power in close combat and double shocks, which you got to account for. With that immediate pressure, you can force the opponent to make some protects. You can force them to bring a Choice Scarf in Team Builder to try to outspeed these mons. Force them to bring a Covert Cloak to try to deal with fake out. Force them to switch out when they see one of these mons in leads and they can't really deal with it. And so then that gives you more space for some of these bulky setup mons like Rotom to get that nasty plot going. I played Heaven in my season, and I thought I was just going to be able to run over this team by being faster than them, but as soon as they traded for Espathra, I realized I needed to execute a more bulky game plan because I couldn't just run them over anymore. So that leads me to an excellent showcase mon, Heaven's Savior Espathra. Espathra, pretty good stats. We'll start with, this is a fast mon, reasonably strong, but the speed boost, though, just existing. Clicking protect, and next turn it's 50% faster. The turn after that, it's double speed, and it just keeps going from there. And its signature move, you look at the numbers, you may not be that impressed, but multipliers are how you turn pretty good numbers to incredible numbers. Lumina Crash cuts their special defense in half while dealing damage. So it's like Fake Tears and Psychic all in one, so it's creating that multiplicative scaling. Lumina Crash is getting stronger and stronger, and then there's just enough coverage for the mons that can deal with Psychic type moves. If they're a Dark type, you just hit them with Dazzling Gleam. If they're other Psychic types, just hit them with Shadow Ball. Energy Ball to hit those pesky Water types. You got exactly the coverage you need, and you've got the tech you need. So sometimes expanding the range of things you can do turn one and becoming a more threatening squad from the early turns is about having that initial speed, but sometimes it's just having a very wide array of moves you can do. This can be a screen setter if you wanted to. This can be a hypnosis disruptor of game plans. This can be a mon that sets Calm Mind and Substitute and sets up an eventual unstoppable sweep. So it has that immediate pressure because it's getting faster from turn 1, but it also has some long-term tools to help other mons get going. So this is what happened with Heaven's team right after he got Espathra. He's fighting a team with a very good record and a big boss of the early Gen 9 format, the Dondozo Tatsugiri. This is a team that would have been a lot slower than his opponent, but the Espathra in lead immediately sets mind games. Are they going to protect? They know that Espathra is going to get out of control, so they throw 2 attacks in it and get the free mud shot from the partner. Speed boost coming, and this time, you know they can't protect, but they can substitute, so they're going to sponge any potential hits. There you go, so another free turn for the Glimmet to take out the Gengar this time. You really want to deal with the Espathra. You're throwing out priority sucker punches to try to outspeed and handle it, but it can protect, it can sub. The protect sub speedy mind game of Espathra placed immediate strain upon a team that otherwise would have had lots of offense here, but it just can't seem to do anything. And so by turn 5, they're tired of throwing sucker punches and more hits at the Espathra, so it actually gets to take its shot, and it does good damage. They go for the Glimmet now. But here's the problem. Espathra can protect, so why bother hitting it? Espathra can sub, so you need to hit it. And Espathra's always going first, so Heracross is in danger. It just protects. And then Bisharp gets hit. So Heaven's got control of this game. He could set up a nasty plot, it would have been okay. Espathra is not just its own threat, it's providing cover for other threats. Yeah, and at this point, Glimmet was a very cool pairing here. It was just a baby mon with a sash, but poison damage was what you needed because Espathra gave you the time for poison to take its toll. I want to show the game too because Heaven's opponent, Canner, really tried to mix up what he was doing here. By game 2, he was like, I know they're going to protect turn 1, right? Because this is the only turn that I can actually threaten them with fake outs and outspeeding them. But you just protect the partner. He throws out both hits into the partner, so it's a pretty infuriating mind game going on here. I feel for Canner, but this is a very good moment for Heaven's team. Showing it can put on that immediate mind games, forcing them to either protect or decide between 2 different options. And this is when you're fighting the big boss here. Canner brings out the Tatsugiri and the Dondozo. Not only do we have the should you hit me, should you not, but you have scaling. Lumina Crash turns those double stats gone. Now, every hit is going to be twice as strong from here on out. So, Heaven had other tools. You know, I think the Squawkabilly has some use here as an intimidator and a parting shot it's going to go for here. So that's one way to deal with the Dondozo, but now Squawkabilly used to be his fastest mon. Now it doesn't have to be the only fast disruptor or damage reducer. At this point, together, the combination of cutting its attack and the scaling offense just means that Heaven finally nabbed that big win. And it's not like Heaven won all his games from here on out. He ultimately didn't make playoffs after the rough start. But it's not about being results-oriented here. It's about seeing the team, seeing how it can work, seeing the key elements you were missing, that immediate pressure and mind games, and then knowing what you need. I'd say you give Heaven multiple more games with the Espathra or with the Palmot, and it would definitely be a contender. Next, Transform your mind to a new format. This is back to Generation 8 National decks. You may not know these mons. I've never played in a draft league with Mega Pokemon before, but there are things we can carry over from one team to the next, try to find the universals in Draft League. Looking at this team, I see lots of speed, right? We see the centerpiece mon that's fast and very strong. If we look up its stats, very fast, very, very strong. So we want to do Mega Gengar, Mega Offense. But where are our other offensive pieces? Can they really overwhelm opponents? Do we have enough speed and power so that it isn't all on Mega Gengar's shoulders? The problem with Mega Pokemon is that in Draft League, they need to carry the Mega Stone if you draft a Mega Pokemon, which means no Sash, no Scarf, right? So if you can outspeed Gengar with your own Scarf, then it can't live with a Sash, it can't use its own Scarf. That's a limiting factor. So that's why, it's not necessarily why Mega Gengar is bad, it's just why to build around Mega Gengar, you need to have other offensive pieces that similarly threaten. At this point, it's like, yeah, Kingdra and Rain is also fast, but it's not taking any one-shots. Lucario is reasonably strong, but it's good as like your fourth best attacker, not your second best attacker. It can definitely crumple under pressure as well. So I also see the other mode that Aid, he goes, his real name's Aldwin. We talked about this team a little bit. He wanted to do a Perish Trap mode, right? This Mega Gengar has Shadow Tag, stopping you from switching out, and then Politoed has Perish Song, making you die if you can't switch out. So that can work, except in order to execute that game plan, you need lots of bulk. In order to outlast those turns as the timer ticks down, you need bulk, you need Fake Out to try to deny your opponent of their turns, you need Trick Room to make sure your mons perish last so you can win that end game. This is a team that was more trying to play offense. There's not a lot of bulk on this team. I mean, Tapu Bulu kind of helps, but just didn't have quite the bulk to play Perish Trap or quite the power and overwhelming power to play a hyper offense game plan. So this team was kind of stuck. It ended up 1-3 after 4 weeks, and they made a big move here. Before I show the move, I want to show you why this was not. Sometimes you have to look inward and say, was it me? Could I have played this differently? And I think Aldwin played an excellent game plan here, and it showed the limitations of his team, is that he was playing the best he could, but he was getting overrun anyway. So I've seen this game now, but before I even did, I think, okay, Gengar's faster when it becomes Mega Gengar, but are there Scarves, right? That's the main thing here. Mega Gengar can't be Scarf, it can't be Sash, so Scarf Blast Cephalon. And that was a good bring by their opponent, who couldn't be faked out. Infernape was the only thing that they could really do to try to exert early control and protect that Mega Gengar, and Ghost type immune to Fake Out. So at this point, you can set Tailwind. You can make sure all your other mons can overwhelm this Mega Gengar Rain team. Good job by the home team getting rid of the Blacephalon, but with Tailwind set up, now Mawile is a problem too. Yeah, this is a little bit of damage, but I don't know if it's going to keep up. If you can get that speed control back, then maybe Infernape can do something, but nope, it's dead. Noivern and Tailwind, it's fast. I want to show you a streamlined version of Game 2 because I think Aldwin is building and playing well, and ultimately this is a team issue that needs to be corrected with some transactions. You'll see they have adjustments, like a Scarf Coco here outscarfs the Scarfer. Unfortunately, it does get seen by Frisk Noivern. When the opponent shifts into a more defensive game plan, trying to live the immediate offense, they can do it, no problem. Golem lives multiple hits here. They're able to set Tailwind, and then Scarf Blacephalon, once it comes back, is going to be a big problem again. When you commit all in to fast mode and your mons just don't have the raw numbers, the power to get it done, then you've got a problem. And maybe it's that this team didn't have the offense from enough angles. It was always coming from Gengar, and so just a faster Shadow Ball. Aldwin called out that he didn't really have a Ghost Resist, and that was a problem for this team. But yeah, at this point, Coco would have just died. So Scarflash Cephalon under Tailwind would have gotten the Coco. At this point, he just takes a chunk out of Infernape. But now that Coco's not on the field, they can just set up another Tailwind. And here, one other good adjustment that Aldwin had brought in his build was a Sturdy mod. In case Blacephalon's scaling out of control, you can live any one hit from a better offense. But the problem is they needed to protect Gengar, so they swapped in Aggron and it loses its Sturdy right there. So at this point, Noivern gets another Tailwind, Blacephalon goes to town. I think this was ultimately a team that was not able to execute its offensive game plan very well, but also couldn't really play on the defensive to control the game very well, to play a more bulky game plan. So they make some transactions. They're 1-3 at this point, but after the transactions, they are 3-1. So what they end up with is this strange, weird, but scary, beautiful creation. I'm gonna get back into PowerPoint. It's not like it's all of a sudden the perfect team, but it's a team with huge numbers and huge threat. You don't need to put everything on Mega Gengar's shoulder. If Mega Gengar has to be doing Icy Wind or Will-O-Wisp to try to, provide some kind of control over the game, then you're not using your Megamon as well. I think what they found is they looked at the draft board and they went, I wanted to make Perish Trap work, but Mega Gengar cost 25 points on a scale of 1 to 25. It was overpriced. And so they traded it down for Mega Titar, who's 15 points. That might have been underpriced. But with those extra points, they were able to get some new threats. They traded out the rain mode and went for the sand mode. They went for a whole new playmaker in Tapu Lele, a wrecking ball of its own right. They kept some of their controllers, right? Tapu Koko for that speed control. Infernape had the fake out. Tapu Bulu had some of the bulk they were looking for. But these are just entirely new playmakers. They have Tailwind, which they didn't before. Maybe Toucannon has it, but it's not the main piece here. But Tapu Lele, big offensive special attacker, Dracovish, big physical attacker, and then these water weaknesses protected by Cradily. This team is chaos with the triple terrain setters and lots of power and lots of different threats. So let's show the power of offense. Fastest mon on this field is Mega Salamence. Or so you thought. This is a Scarf Lele. That's the wonderful thing about a non-Mega Pokemon. It can run a Scarf, and about a mon as strong as Lele is that it doesn't need an offense boosting item. It can run the Scarf and still take one-shots. And so this provides the cover for your more defensively oriented mon, or your more bulky mon, to set up a win con. Dragon Dance overcomes the Intimidate, and it's still doing good damage. This is Avent's defensive win con, trying to set up coils, but the thing is, this is a lot of power here. You can just go straight after it, and it's gone. Good strategy to ignore support if you recognize it ultimately can't do that much to you. Their 3 attackers just gone, one by one by one. It's going to be a 4-0, I think. There you go. So, I think early Draft League players, they go burr with all their offensive tools, but what they don't have when you're early in Draft League is knowing the positioning, knowing the full range of things that your opponent might surprise you with, ending up getting surprised by something, and then offensive game plans, if they don't establish control, sometimes they crumple. So then my adjustment was I became like a more defensive player almost immediately in Draft League, where I tried to control them, stop them from doing much. But if you don't have that threat of offense, then good players will take advantage of you. So I think a lot of good players recognize that going straight for the offense, well-placed offense, is hard to beat. And so it might seem simple to just throw out attacks, but a lot of calculations go into, can I get the one-shots? Can I outspeed what I need to? Can I threaten 2 different Pokemon on my opponent's side? So this was a really, really good set of moves that Aldwin made. we're almost at the final act, in which I will take a struggling team and find multiple good ways you could turn it around. But I will show the first time I made some big transactions, and it really showed me the potential of making moves, because I was in my defensive era and I had all the bulk, Rillaboom, Entei, the bulky supports, the bulky attackers. I thought I could just produce my offense out of thin air using Dynamax. This is Gen 8. But other teams have offense too. They have scaling offense. And so I was getting beat by faster Mons that just overrun me with Max Airstream a couple different weeks in a row. And so I realized I had to make some moves. Sometimes what you needed is what you had all along. I started using Hitmonlee more because it was actually like a more aggressive option, because as soon as you use its item, it gets double speed with its ability. It jumps all the way up to here. I had multiple different ways to trigger its item. And so pretty strong, fast, close combats. That was a new dimension that I was missing and not utilizing on my team. I realized I didn't need Scrafty because I already had a fighting type. I had bulky supports, I had bulky attackers. So Scrafty went away for Mandibuzz. I could get Max Airstreamed, but if I can Tailwind, I finally have a Tailwind setter, then I can claw the speed back. And then another explosive option, turn 1 and 2 was the problem, where I just didn't have that immediate pressure. Magneton actually ended up being that, because people were bringing their 125 speed Mons, 130 speed Mons, thinking they had the immediate speed advantage, but max speed Scarf Magneton was just barely faster than them, could E-web them down, slow them down so that Entei and the others could handle it. That was a new explosive option. I felt really good. I was cooking in the last weeks of the season. I did lose in the first round of the playoffs, but again, let's not be results oriented. I felt like I had the tools for any matchup, that I no longer felt like my team was the issue, and that is the mark of some good transactions. So, final, Cobra in the SPS is not going well, but this is a veteran coach and they had some really good ideas here. So I want to take the best ideas, get rid of the redundancy. I think they had too many eggs and too few baskets, and that's why the team has struggled. Too much sauce, not enough meat. So back in Gen 9 Draft League, early meta, Garchomp is one of the best Mons in the format, one of the only good ground types in the format. They go all in on Garchomp abuse. 3 different birds that, yeah, you can spam Earthquakes next to them. Earthworm is also immune to partner Earthquakes. Brambleghast resists partner Earthquakes. They've got super duper triple Tailwind mode, 9 fast Mons, and a couple of specific synergies when they all benefit from Tailwind. So Wind Power, Kilowattrel, Wind Rider, Brambleghast, they love the Tailwind. But here's the problem, you just set up Trick Room, right? Going too hard in any one mode means opponents can see that and just do the opposite of that. So the only Trick Room setter here is Bruxish, and Bruxish is not very good. It is not a Trick Room defense. The problem is you're putting too much on Garchomp's shoulders. You're setting everyone up for Garchomp to go, but like, just Ice Move the Garchomp. Like, no Mon is perfect. It does have a weakness, and it shares weaknesses with too many Mons here. All 3 birds dying to Ice Moves. Brambleghast too dying to Ice Moves. Kind of a problem. I love their tech, right? I love the tricky Tailwind synergies. I like the Colossal mode even. I even think Colossal can do some things with activation from Bruxish, but it was just too predictable. I'm trying to go fast and hit things. Trick Room, this team's going to be very weak to Trick Room, and I think there's a couple of predictable win cons that you can just really target. And so I need new win cons. I need new dimensions to this team, taking some of the best stuff, just not doing too much of that stuff. Diamonds in the draft board. This is SPS had only 8 teams in each draft pool, which means half of the Mons were untaken. So there was definitely, even with 16 Mon draft boards, you can definitely find some diamonds in the rough, undrafted Mons that can turn your team around. But there's so much that I can do to make this team better. One new mode, new dimension to this team is the classic Dondozo Katsugiri is somehow undrafted here. But you can drop some of these expensive, redundant Mons and take a whole new dimension. You gotta prep for the Dondozo when it gets double speed with its partner, or double stats, all double stats. You gotta bring the Haze, you gotta bring the special Thunderbolts. But it's beaten very differently from the Garchomp, that just tries to take the raw Okos. So I think this is definitely way better. Another mode, you could have gone Palafin and Pelipper are available, and so that's the rain power mode, where Pelipper sets rain and Palafin just jet punch. And so that requires different answers than Garchomp. I guess you can intimidate both of them, but like you want to beat this with ice moves, but this guy resists ice. You want to beat this with Thunderbolt, but this guy is immune to Thunderbolt. So it's just a whole new dimension, and you need some defensive backbone. Intimidate helps you get going with this fast but frail offense here. Intimidate would have really helped. So I want to showcase Palafin as my other big showcase for this episode. Palafin is so good. People have been ambivalent as to whether it is the true top tier, that the hype was there, but then people have like, no, you need to switch it out. It's too tricky to use. I think it's really there. It's got hero potential because look at those stats. Yes, you do need to switch it out, activate the 0 to hero ability, but this team had ways to do it, right? It's got 2 fake out, flip turn, fake out, just raw switch out the Palafin. Intimidate would have been helpful. Redirection to help Palafin. Just use distraction, right? Use Kilowattrel or Garchomp and have them focus on that instead. All depends here. But as soon as Palafin is back, it is 160 attack, Wave Crash. Everything dies. Jet Punch. Things die regardless of even if they were faster, because Jet Punch is priority, especially in rain. You don't have a ton of other moves, but you have exactly what you need, in my opinion. You're mostly a water-type nuke, but close combat is that key dimension for the mons that can handle water moves, and you can close combat eject pack, so you cut your own stats, swap out while still being productive that turn, activating your ability. Ice Punch is good for beating water resist like grass mons, like dragon mons, so classic water-ice combo. You can even be special. So I like the mons that have mix-ups, like that Espathra, that stretch your opponent, make them have to pay attention to 2 different win cons. And the fact that this mon can even be here without just going nuke, you can go Choice Band, and they have to calc to live Choice Band Jet Punch. But you can also be like a hybrid. You can do Bulk Up, Citrus Berry, stay on the field for a long time. You can beat Haze, so you can beat things like the setup win cons, like that Dondozo. You can beat some physical attackers with Charm. I like that the water power is so strong that you have a couple extra move slots, then you can just run one support move on there. Encore can ruin someone's day. So Palafin, big potential. It's going to end up in my final transformation of this team. One other thing you could do, I'm just swapping 2 or 3 mons at a time here. Very easy to take this unnecessarily expensive Orthworm and Murkrow and just turn it into a whole new mode, Psy Spam mode. Indeedee is too expensive and is already taken, the female one, but male one is strong. This is big Psy Spam here. Armarouge is tricky. It's got different moves and it's got lots of power, so you would beat it differently than you would beat the Garchomp. You want ice moves, but this guy resists ice. You want whatever. You get the idea. I think the Psy Spam would just be a whole new dimension. Is it the best thing ever? No, I mean, there's dark types, but like you do have a Flamigo, you have a fairy type, you could deal with that, and so I want to pull the opponent in different directions. So, what I think is the best part of this team is the Tailwind Abuse and the Kilowattrel Garchomp combination, right? So Earthquake immunity and Discharge immunity. You got the Disquake here and the 2 fake outs. I do like Tinkaton as a mon, but we're gonna give this team new dimensions. We got 48 more points, by the way. In the description, there's all these teams, including I put the points that they cost, so you can see and try to weigh the cost versus benefit here. But with 48 points, I'm able to get 4 new pieces. Right here, Palafin, just because it forces different kinds of prep. Toxtricity, what is all this speed for? We've still got our 2 Tailwind setters. I even kept the Colossal. I thought that was kind of cool. But I need a mon that has everything except speed. It's got lots of power, and it's a new special attacker. This team was a little physical, and so it's a big special win con. And so now you go all physical defense trying to beat that Garchomp, but then you die to Toxtricity, so pretty cool. Slowbro is an amazing draft mon, but it allows us to have a viable Trick Room defense. This thing can imprison the Trick Room, it can reverse the Trick Room, it can also do a number of different things, so it's sitting in team preview threatening to ruin a Trick Room plan, but it's also Iron Defense Body Press, Yawn, Heal Pulse, different coverage moves, and it's also a way to do Trick Room Colossal, so you can do set Trick Room and then bulldoze the Colossal, so now you've got a weakness policy sweeper on the low end. So whole new dimensions, and then a maximum defense tool. I thought this team was some frail birds that were going to get pelted out of the sky, but Umbreon does not get beaten easily. So you pull people in different directions with these offensive win cons, and then by the end of the game, they just don't have enough juice left in the tank to beat Umbreon. So I think these were 4 new playmakers that made this team. This team is very, very balanced now. It is physically strong, specially strong. It is fast. It is slow. It is not particularly weak to anything. I guess it's a little bit weak to ice still, but we'll Terra away from it. It'll be fine. The key is that one thing does not beat this whole team anymore, or one handful of things. So I really feel good about this team. I feel like wins in Draft League are never guaranteed against good, dedicated opponents, but this team is not going to hold you back. So, conclusions. It's pretty hard for me to come up with conclusions here because we're looking so high level, looking at entire teams, and every team is upset in different ways when it's not going well. I want this, but I also want that. But very few teams are beyond fixing. Don't throw in the towel here. Lots of teams, especially, like, you need to have transaction rules. I would only recommend joining leagues that allow you to make at least some team-to-team or a free agency transactions, because otherwise you're just stuck if your draft doesn't work out. But with a couple of transactions, night and day with 2 moves here, just getting the Dondozo or the Palafin. So zoom out and look at your team through your opponent's eyes. It's sometimes helpful to just talk to people. Hey, how would you beat my team? And they say, oh, you're Volcarona, so I'm just going to spam rock slides to beat your Volcarona and everything else. Then you say, well, wow, okay, I guess I do need answers to their answers. So I need Wide Guard, I need Rock Resists, I need something to beat those physical attackers that are throwing out the rock slides. Don't be results-oriented, right? When you lose, sometimes there are just little things you could have done, like, oh, I should have just targeted a different mon there and I win. So I don't need to throw out everything I thought about this team, or actually I just need to be bringing this thing more often because people keep seeing this is the problem with my team. I drafted this so that it would beat that. Things like that. I'm speaking in hypotheticals, but that's the challenge here when you're talking about fixing entire teams. Find the soul of your team. This is the stuff that's working. Tailwind abuse, Garchomp abuse, fake out, disruption stuff. But what else do I have to scare opponents? What other win cons? That's the tricky part, is knowing when a mon wins you the game, when it can't just take 1 KO, but can take 5 KO when you support it well. Talk about trades. Usually there's going to be some diamonds undrafted for you to take, but you can expand the range of potential fixes by talking to people, saying, hey, I've got X, Y, and Z, thinking of dropping them. Would you want to give up anything for them? And just keep looking at the move pools. Keep looking at, in the Team Hawk doc, look at Mons, consider all the options. It's really worth it. The results will come if things are not going your way. You can get that new playmaker, that new Espathra, that new Palafin. You do not have to wait till next season. So, best of luck in your next draft league. Make those trades. Oh, and by the way, I've got more examples. I asked people in a couple of servers to give me examples of good transactions they made. And I got more examples than I could reasonably fit in a 30-minute episode. So I want to do a sequel at some point, but only if y'all are interested in it. Let me know if you want to see some more real team transformations. But anyway, stay tuned. Best of luck in your next draft league.